Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti. I am MrPhotographer.com. Instagram is the #1 photo sharing website in the world. And you're probably not surprised to know that they don't care what your photo looks like. They don't care about the quality. When you upload an image to them, they're going to mash it and smash it and resize it so that it takes up the least amount of space on their servers and loads as quickly as possible on everyone's device. But there are some things you can do in post-production that will maximize the quality of your image once it's on Instagram. In this video, I'm going to talk about those things. All right, I'm using Lightroom as a reference, but what I'm going to talk about could pretty much be applied to any post-processing application. And we're going to jump right into it with number one. Number one is contrast and sharpening. I found that when you upload an image to Instagram, they add a bit of contrast to it. Now, at first, when I was uploading images there, I saw they were a little more contrasty on my phone, and I just kind of blamed it on my phone. I just thought the screen on my phone was a little more contrasty than my computer monitor. But when I visited Instagram.com on my computer using the same monitor I processed the image in, I did notice that it had more contrast to it. So they definitely are adding a bit of contrast. So my recommendation to you is use contrast sparingly. And I'm not talking about just the contrast slider that's in, let's say, the basic panel of Lightroom. I'm also talking about texture, clarity, and dehaze, because all three of these sliders, when you move them up, will add contrast to your image. If you're in the habit of using the tone curve to add contrast, definitely do not use more than what is medium contrast in the drop down of the point curve. I found that medium contrast is kind of the sweet spot for most images, and that usually will render the best quality once the image is uploaded to Instagram. So they add a bit of contrast. They also add a lot of sharpening. I've noticed my images, when they go up there, they look way sharper than they looked on my computer. Also, what I found is a lot of these conglomerate Instagrams, and when I say a conglomerate Instagram, I'm talking about these Instagrams, for example, like Animal Elite, @Animal Elite, or @Birds of Instagram. A lot of these Instagrams, what they'll do is they'll scrape an image off your Instagram and repost it to theirs. So let's say I have a beautiful image of a bird and I upload it to my Instagram. Instagram sharpens it. They add sharpening to it. And I use a hashtag, let's say birds of Instagram, so that the other Instagram site, Birds of Instagram, notices it. They scrape it off of my Instagram and then re-upload it to theirs. So my sharpened image got scraped off of Instagram, and then it gets uploaded again and gets sharpened again. Quite often, these images get shared multiple times across all these different conglomerate Instagrams. And they're not just scraping it from the original source, they're scraping it from one another. And what you'll find, go to any of those Instagrams and find an image and zoom in, and you'll see that it's like way over sharpened. And many of these images are from like National Geographic photographers, and you know darn well that they're not over sharpening their image. It's Instagram doing it. So be very careful with sharpening, and I mean, they add a lot. Instagram adds a lot. So I recommend you don't go above 25 on most images on sharpening. Be very careful. You'll see that it's going to add quite a bit to your image. So that's number one, contrast and sharpening. Be very careful because Instagram adds a lot of sharpening and a bit of contrast. Number two is color. Instagram uses the sRGB color space. Many of us in our cameras, whether we're shooting RAW or JPEG, are using the Adobe RGB color space, and especially you JPEG users. That means your JPEG image is Adobe RGB. Well, when you upload that image to Instagram, they're going to convert it to sRGB. sRGB is a smaller color space than Adobe RGB. So that means sRGB doesn't have as many colors as Adobe RGB. So what happens in the conversion process, they shift colors that fit in the sRGB color space. So the colors will shift. Quite often, people will email me and say when they are uploading images to Instagram, the colors look different. Well, that's probably why. So what you need to do is verify that your image looks proper in the sRGB color space. To do that, use soft proofing. In Lightroom, if you're in the Develop module, and you go down here just below the image above the film strip, this little strip of real estate is called the toolbar. If you don't see this, hit the T key on your keyboard, T for toolbar. The T key will toggle that off and on. To the left here, you'll see the little checkbox, soft proofing. If you don't see that, go over here on the far right and you see this little down arrow, click on that and make sure that soft proofing is checked. When it's checked, it'll show up in the toolbar. So click on that and you can see this white border goes around the image and it says Proof Preview. Then over here on the right panel where it says soft proofing, if you look at this area here, you'll see profile, and right now it's showing, I have it showing a paper profile. Let me switch that to the sRGB profile. Click on that drop down and go up to sRGB. Watch the image. Look at the image when I do that. You can see the colors shifted. So that's why you want to make sure that you're processing your image in the sRGB color space. If any of the colors are out of gamut, meaning the sRGB color space cannot reproduce them, you could see which colors they are by hovering over this little like monitor icon over here. When I hover over that, you see nothing's happening. So all these colors are in gamut. So theoretically, when I upload this image to Instagram, the colors should be the same. If you go over on the right, this is if you're printing it. Now you can see with whatever paper I might have had loaded in there or referencing, you see all that red show up? All those colors are out of the gamut of the printer, not the monitor. So this has nothing to do with uploading them to Instagram, but that I show you as an example. So what you could do then is click on that to make it permanent. Let's say I was printing this, then go and start adjusting colors till all this red disappears. Now, as far as uploading to Instagram, I'm good to go. Now, if I go, let's say, down to this paper and I hover over that little computer icon there, you can see all the blue comes on. That means it's not displaying on my monitor the way it's going to print. And I then could click on that, make it permanent, and come in here and adjust it if I wanted to. But we're not concerned with that. We're concerned with the actual sRGB color space. So make sure that none of your colors are out of gamut. Create a soft proof. Go over here, make sure this profile says sRGB, and then hover over this little computer monitor here and see if any colors are out of gamut. If they are, you'll get blue showing up on your screen. If there's blue showing there, click on it, then go down and adjust like saturation and vibrance, and go down to the HSL tab and adjust some of these saturation and even hue of these colors to eliminate all that blue overlay. Then you'll know that what you're seeing on your computer monitor is what is going to be displayed on Instagram. When you're done, click on this little computer monitor icon again to turn it off. Then come down here and turn off the checkbox on the soft proofing so you're out of soft proofing mode. And you should be good to go as far as color is concerned. Number 3, the actual image size when you upload it to Instagram and the crop. Instagram's going to resize everything so that the long edge of the image is 1080 when it's a horizontal image. So I probably should rephrase that. When you have a landscape image like this, horizontal, when you upload this to Instagram, no matter what size I export it from Lightroom as, Instagram's going to resize it so it is 1080 pixels along this long edge. Now, if you export from let's say Lightroom, and let's say I use 2048 or 3000 or 6000, Instagram's going to resize it. You don't want Instagram to resize it because they're going to just really mash it and smash it and ruin it. So you want to export from Lightroom when you have a landscape image or a square image. The landscape image, long edge at 1080. A square image, just any of those edges, 1080. And then you should get the best quality on your export and when you upload it to Instagram. So go to the export dialog. You could go down to File, Export. And a couple things here, go down. We're going to export JPEG. Make sure you're using the sRGB color space. That goes back to number 2. Quality, you could keep at 100. All right, so have quality at 100. Resize so that the long edge is 1080. The resolution doesn't matter. You could put 1 or 1000 there. It doesn't matter. So don't worry about that. I have 72 by default. That's fine. So long edge 1080. Don't sharpen for screen. All right. And then that's it. Those are the settings. So the main thing is here when you're here is sRGB. It's a JPEG using the sRGB color space, quality of 100. Horizontal or square image, just, long edge is 1080 pixels. And put 72 pixels per inch there. That's fine. Whatever. It really doesn't matter. And that, no sharpening. No output sharpening at all. All right. And then that should get you the best quality for your landscape-oriented image. Now that's for landscape images. What about a vertical or portrait-oriented image? Well, this is a little different. When you upload images to Instagram that are in this portrait configuration, they have to be in the 4:5 ratio, meaning the crop mode. So what you would do is open up the crop tool, go to this drop down right here and go to 4:5 by 8:10. Click there. That has to be, it has to be this. If you upload the image in the original as shot mode, Instagram, when you go to load it, it's going to default to square. And when you go to expand it, it's only going to expand out to 4:5, 8:10. So my recommendation is crop it in Lightroom or any of the application you're using first before you upload it to Instagram. Don't let them do the crop. Do it yourself. Then you could kind of control where you have the crop. And although you can control it in Instagram a little bit, you're better off doing it here. So that is that. When you're set with the crop, click close. Now, when you export it, you don't want the long edge to be 1080. You want the long edge on these portrait vertical images to be 1350 pixels. So what you would do is, again, go to the export dialog, and what you would do is go down to here and change this long edge, which is going to be the vertical edge, to 1350 pixels. Again, you could use any resolution you like, and don't do any output sharpening at all. And JPEG sRGB, put quality at 100. All right, so to go from top to bottom, in file settings, JPEG sRGB, quality 100. Image resizing, make sure the long edge, this vertical edge, is 1350 pixels. Resolution, again, doesn't matter. Do not do any output sharpening, and then export your image. Then you could upload it to Instagram, and they're going to minimally mess with it in that instance. Now, one thing I should just drop back here to landscape horizontal image. These aspect ratios, I mentioned for the vertical image, it has to be 4:5. It just has to be. There's no way. It's either square or 4:5. You can't do anything else for the vertical image. For the landscape or horizontal image, you have a little more leeway here. They say, I looked this right up on Instagram, that the aspect ratio should be between 1.91 and 1 and 4:5. So that would include this image is 2:3 or 3:2, whichever way you want to put it. So if I go here and I go to 2:3, you see it didn't change. So every pixel will display on Instagram fine here. They also mentioned, though, that it has to be between 1.91 and 1 and 4.5. So 4.5, of course, is this here. So you're going to lose stuff on the edge. That's fine if you want to tighten the image up, crop it to that. If you do, then that image will be displayed on Instagram properly. Every pixel will show. That's if you want it that way. We'll go back to the crop tool and let's reset it. Now, they mentioned that 1.91 to 1, that's really an odd aspect ratio. And I have that way down here I created. That's actually a 12 by 6.28. I guess you could reduce that to a 6 by 3.14. So that is more of a cinematic look. So you do have a lot of leeway. So you could go to this kind of cinematic look. You could probably even do a 16 by 9, which is, typical video resolution, something like that. 16 by 10 should work also. So anything along those. So you have a lot more leeway. The whole point I'm trying to say is with the horizontal image, you have a lot more leeway. With the vertical, you're kind of stuck. It has to be either square or 4.5. That's all you have to choose from there. So I hope that made sense, and I hope this will better help you get the best quality possible when you upload any image to Instagram. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.